Welcome to Daily Dose. My name is Robert. It's my pal Susan. How you doing, pal?
Howdy, howdy. I'm great. Thank you.
So we start usually quite jovial because I think we tend to be, and that is a fun place to jump off of because I want to talk about playing with misery.
Yes. It was challenging to play with misery at the Jam for Joy the other day. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so it's a really fun use of things, and shout out to Brene Brown, our leader out there, as we're still playing with her emotions. She puts it into the Atlas of the Heart, and the bucket we came up with had uh, Schadenfreude and Freudenfreude on the list. Schadenfreude is, of course, celebrating joy in someone else's misery. Freudenfreude is joy in someone else's joy. So neat use of words, neat concepts, emotions to put forward. And, like we say, it's one thing to think of these things and discuss them logically, whatever. Systemically, what we do with yaks is we say, great, that's what it is. Now let's play with it.
Right. Right. Get that out of your head and let's just be in the moment.
So tell me about what was your experience of playing with misery roundly? How did it feel to you? What did you notice?
I was shocked when people were good at it. Somebody would impose cancer on somebody else.
Yes, I heard
Oh
that
my
exactly.
God. And Robert, I thought, I wish I could do that. I got to figure out a way to get there.
Yeah.
I know that's what we're doing here, and I couldn't get there.
And
I
that's
slid
totally
into
okay.
it very differently.
Yeah, that's part of the reflection, right? Is not it's not about the game, it's about how you play the game. What does it say about you? Right? That's the constant mirror that's up. These games reveal things about ourselves. And when we have a hard time, playing a certain game for whatever reason, there's a great chance to go back and say, huh, why was that? I felt that. What was that about? And see if there's some root thing there that either you're like, well, no, that's because who I am and I'm comfortable with that, or huh, I'm putting that restriction up there and I have no need for that restriction anymore. Right? I mean, you've
Remember
experienced
that? Remember the cartoon with the escalator and the.
yeah.
So every time you put that up, I have mixed feelings about it. I can see kind of why it's funny and okay, but most of me is like, ouch, ouch.
Yeah. And conceptually, yeah, that's gallows humor. So the guy in a wheelchair at the bottom saying, stairway to heaven, and he's in a wheelchair going, oh, come on, right? And there you are, a little laughter and then a little bit of oh, right?
Yeah.
And specifically what we did yesterday was we had people make a statement of misery, right? And then we had someone else yes and that misery. And yes and is a powerful tool. And yes is acceptance of the offer, in this case, misery, and here's something to it. And my direction further with it, which I was so intrigued to watch, and it's going to become more of what we do, was you can be either affirmative or additive in your response. Do you remember those two things?
Absolutely. And there was a lot more
What
affirmative.
was
It was easier.
it? So tell me about affirmative and additive and how they played to you.
uh, Additive would be when I needed to go there and find a new thing, like dumping cancer on somebody's
Yeah,
misery
because
or
my hip
somebody's
hurts and someone says, yes, and you've got cancer too, right?
yeah, right. And affirmative would be yes, and it's just such a big thing that you're dealing with now.
Mhm.
Which is kind and supportive and loving, but it's not actually what we were doing. But
Well, it's a
you
different
found a
level,
way
right?
to you did find a way to embrace that, to help us
Uh-huh.
embrace those of us who couldn't go there.
Well, that's exactly right. Because I never want to tell anybody they're wrong for what they're feeling or how they're playing. Remember, there's no wrong answers, right? And so it's about, this is what's going on. This is what I'm observing. And here's the reflection that came to me. I had a very fun, productive run this morning, where I said, you know what this relates to? It's the same way we talk about sympathy, empathy, or I'll do the other way, sympathy, empathy, compassion, how we play, right? That the affirmative and then the additive and then the actual embracing, right? Those are the levels we want to get to. I'm there with you and I'm adding something, right? That so, there's nothing wrong with sympathy. It's just not quite as full as empathy. There's nothing wrong with empathy. It's just not quite as full as compassion.
And
So,
all of those feel positive to me, if you will.
sure.
Whereas if you're adding something to misery, anything you add, if it's additive, is more misery.
Yeah, right. And that's the interesting thing about that game. It sometimes. Oh, that reminds me. Okay, we're gonna play Yay Boo next week because it can be a fight to the top or the bottom. Good, you're sparking things. And while you spark that, let's spark the end of this.
Okay.